Hi everyone, I'm Greg. Today I'm going to make a batch of healthy cupcakes. Reason why I call them healthy cupcakes, just because I substitute part of the butter with yogurt. As we all know, yogurt is just packed of good benefit to our body, and at the same time, I will feel less guilty when I stuff my face with my cupcakes. And the other reasons why I use yogurt in my cake is just because yogurt will give a really good moist textures to the cakes. Even though you leave the cakes outside at the room temperatures for 2 to 3 days, the cake base will still stay really moist. Okay, I will show you all the ingredients to make the cake batter. First of all, we start with the wet ingredients. Within the wet ingredients, we have yogurt, 150 ml of yogurt, we have 3 large eggs, we have 175 grams of unsalted butter. For the yogurt, I tend to use Greek yogurt because it's thicker, so it will avoid from a runny cake batter, which I don't really like it because you tend to bake them for longer period of time and there is a higher potential to dry out your cake. So Greek yogurt usually is my top choice. Okay, first of all, is lightly beat up 3 eggs. And then I'll mix in the yogurt. Okay, just mix well with it. And leave aside, waiting to be used later. Okay. Now we can start preparing the dry ingredients. We have 140 grams of self-raising flours, okay. 1 teaspoon of baking powders, pinch of salt. Don't put in too much salt because salt will actually kill the baking powders, but we still need a little bit of saltiness to our batter, so we put just a pinch. Okay. 100 grams of ground almonds. You can get them from the supermarket. And then 120 grams of custard sugars. And just use a dry spatula to mix it. Just make sure that all the dry ingredients are mixed well. And for the baking powders, for this recipe you only need 1 little teaspoons of the baking powders. And don't be greedy. I was thinking that, oh, I want my cakes to rise higher, so I put more than 1 teaspoon. I tried it before, I was being greedy, and then baking powder is actually have these effects. It will actually raise your cakes, but if you overdose it, you put too much, it will rise and then it will collapse. So 1 teaspoon is just nice for this much of dry ingredients, so don't be greedy. Okay, once all the dry ingredients we mix well, we just make a little hole in the middle for our wet ingredients to go in. So let's put in the yogurt and the egg mix. Let's put in slowly, bit by bit, so that you won't have a lumpy mixtures. butters. Usually I will just melt my butters at room temperatures, but if you run out of time, you can actually mannequin that just put it on a hot water and then hot boiling water, and then put a bowl on top and then slowly melt your butter, or you can just put it into the microwave. But put it into microwave, I have the feelings that it tends to dry out your butter, and then so for example, both persons actually using the same ingredients, same amount of butter, but once it's actually melt the butters in the ramekins or your room temperatures, the other one is actually melt the butters in microwave. They tend out to have a very different moisture levels to the cake batter. Obviously, the one that melt the butter in the microwave will have a drier butter, so that the cakes tend to be drier. This is just my observations. Okay, now we can just put in the butter and then make sure that we don't really over mix the cake batter, because we over mix it and then there is too much air in the cake batter. It will give the cake textures less moist. Okay, let's fold it in one direction. So if you start with clockwise, just keep on with the clockwise. We just want to make sure that all the flours, all the sugars are fully melted and then mixed well. I do like these recipes just because you don't need to use electric whips. You can just use normal spatulas and then that's it. So less things to wash out. So once your cake batter is mixed well, you can see that the texture is really smooth now and even. So now we can actually scoop out and then put it into our cake base. Usually I use ice cream scoop so that it's cleaner, and then each of my cakes will have equal quantities of cake batter so that all of them will rise evenly. Okay, once we have filled up all the cake base, we can actually put into our preheated oven for 190 degrees for 18 to 20 minutes. Okay, it's time to prepare our frosting. Today I'm going to use white chocolate frosting. Obviously you can put, instead of white chocolate, you can put milk chocolate or dark chocolate. But bear in mind, if you put milk chocolate or dark chocolate, you can't really put any coloring in to make it more fancy. But other than chocolate frosting, you can use buttermilk or cream cheese frosting. They do go quite well with this cake base. Okay, talk about the ingredients. First of all, 150 grams of milk chocolate, and then 210 grams of icing sugar and 210 grams of unsalted butter. So you can see that I put in the unsalted butter into the icing sugar. Let's wait until the butter has gone into room temperature, and then we can melt the white chocolate in the microwave. Okay, let's put in the microwave, and then let's do microwave for 1 minute, and then we can take it out and stir a bit, and then we put it back. Okay, let's put it back to the microwave. No, 30 seconds. Okay, you can see that it's fully melted now. Let's put it aside and waiting to be used. And now we can start whisk up the icing sugar and the room temperature melted butter. And we can whisk it until it's smooth. You can see that I always like to crumb up the butter with the icing sugar, so that when I start whistling it, it won't really like splash everywhere. Okay, we can slowly put in the melted white chocolate, just bit by bit, so that we can make sure that this batter is actually well mixed up and there's no any lumpy bits in it. So once the mixture is turned into this texture and shining, then which means that it's done. So you can scoop it up and then put cling film on and then put in the fridge for about 1.5 hours before we start frosting. Okay, after 1.5 hours, our white chocolate frostings has actually stiffed up a little bit more. And this is one of the reasons why I like white chocolate frosting, because you can just do up a big batch, and then if you can't really finish them, you can actually cling film them and put them into the fridge, and then you can store them up to 1 month. And every time you want to use them, you can just scoop out and then bring them into the room temperatures, and you can start piping again. Okay, it's time to mixing up some colors. And today I'm going to put in some blues, and I usually use naturals colors that you can. Okay, I'm just going to dash a little bit of the blue and on our frosting. Hold on. Okay, just a little bit. And then I'm going to mix it up. I'm purposely not going to mix well, so that when I'm popping out, it will look like of marble effects. Okay, that's it. Let's start from the first one, and we always start from the edge and then slowly move into the middle. Done. The second one. Okay, easy enough. And then now do the third one. Ta-da! All done.